In an age when devotion was often measured by wealth and grandeur, the wandering sage Narada traveled across kingdoms, observing how people expressed their faith. Everywhere he went, he saw magnificent temples filled with gold, precious jewels, and elaborate offerings. Kings and nobles competed with one another, believing that the more they gave, the closer they would come to the divine. Yet at the center of all this stood Lord Shiva, the ascetic god who owned nothing, lived among ashes, and remained untouched by material wealth. This contrast stirred a quiet question within Narada's mind, a question that demanded an answer. His journey eventually brought him to the court of a powerful king, renowned far and wide for his immense riches and unwavering devotion to Shiva. The king's temple was a spectacle of brilliance, its pillars plated with gold, its halls filled with the fragrance of rare incense, and its altars overflowing with offerings of unmatched value. To the world, the king appeared to be the perfect devotee, one who spared no expense in his worship. Narada observed all of this in silence before proposing a simple test, one that seemed almost insignificant compared to the king's grand rituals. A large balance scale was brought into the royal courtyard, drawing the attention of ministers, priests, and citizens alike. On one side of the scale, Narada gently placed a single Bilva leaf, sacred to Lord Shiva. It was small, light, and unremarkable in appearance. The other side remained empty, waiting. With confidence, the king began placing his offerings onto the scale. Gold coins were brought in first, their weight filling the air with the sound of clinking metal. Then came ornaments studded with diamonds, followed by chests overflowing with treasures gathered over years of prosperity. The pile grew larger and larger, shining brilliantly under the sunlight. Yet the scale did not move. The single Bilva leaf remained firmly grounded, as if it carried a weight unseen by the eyes. A murmur spread through the gathered crowd. The king, though surprised, was not yet shaken. He ordered more wealth to be brought forward. Silks, rare gems, sacred artifacts, anything that symbolized his devotion. The offerings continued to grow, but the result remained unchanged. The leaf did not rise. It stood as though anchored by something far greater than material weight. What had begun as a display of confidence slowly turned into unease. The king's pride began to waver as he stared at the scale, unable to comprehend what he was witnessing. For the first time, a deeper question emerged within him. All his life, he had believed that devotion was something that could be demonstrated through abundance, through visible acts of giving. But now, faced with a single unmoving leaf, that belief began to crumble. The courtyard fell silent. The noise of wealth, the presence of spectators, even the king's authority, all seemed to fade into the background. What remained was a moment of reflection, heavy and unavoidable. The king stepped forward, no longer as a ruler, but as a seeker searching for truth. Closing his eyes, he withdrew from the world around him. In that quiet space, he began to see his devotion for what it truly was. Not false, but incomplete. It had been filled with effort, with discipline, with offerings prepared and presented with care. But it had also carried pride, expectation, and a desire to be seen. When he opened his eyes again, something within him had changed. He reached for another Bilva leaf, similar in every way to the first, yet carrying something entirely different. This time, there was no display, no announcement, no sense of achievement. There was only a quiet surrender, an offering that came not from wealth, but from within. He placed the leaf gently onto the scale. In that instant, the impossible happened. The scale moved, slowly at first, then steadily, until both sides balanced perfectly. The vast treasures that had once seemed insufficient now found equilibrium, not because of their weight, but because something deeper had finally been added. The crowd stood frozen, unable to grasp what they had just witnessed. But in that stillness, there was a presence, subtle yet profound. It was said that the essence of Lord Shiva could be felt in that moment, not through form or vision, but through an overwhelming sense of clarity and peace. No words were spoken, no divine form appeared, yet the message was unmistakable. From that day onward, the king's devotion transformed. His rituals continued, his offerings remained, but they were no longer acts of display. They became expressions of connection, guided by humility rather than pride. And the story of the single leaf lived on, not as a tale of a miracle, but as a reminder that true devotion is never measured by what is given, but by the sincerity with which it is offered. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mythology Medley. Click the bell icon for more such amazing mythological content.